Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
And now chapter 15, Meditation on the Lord's Transcendental Forms. Text 34. Naikatmatam me sprahayanti kechin matpada seva birata mad iha yen yonyato bhagavata prasajya sabhajayante mama porushani. Translation. A pure devotee who is attached to the activities of devotional service and who always engages in the service of my lotus feet never desires to become one with me. Such a devotee who is unflinchingly engaged always glorifies my pastimes and activities. Purport. There are 5 kinds of liberation stated in the Scriptures. One is to become one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or to forsake one's individuality and merge into the Supreme Spirit. This is called a katmatam. A devotee never accepts this kind of liberation. The other 4 liberations are to be promoted to the same planet as God, Vaikuntha, to associate personally with the Supreme Lord, to achieve the same opulence as the Lord, and to attain His same bodily features. A pure devotee, as Kapila Muni will explain, does not aspire for any of the 5 liberations. He especially despises the attempt to become one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Prabodhananda Saraswati, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, said, Kaivalyam narakayate, which means, quote, the happiness of becoming one with the Supreme Lord, which is the aspiration of the Mayavadis, is considered hellish, unquote. That oneness is not for pure devotees. There are many so-called devotees who think that in the conditioned state we may worship the personality of Godhead, but that ultimately there is no personality. They say that since the Absolute Truth is impersonal, one can imagine a personal form of the impersonal Absolute Truth for the time being, but as soon as one becomes liberated, the worship stops. That is the theory put forward by Mayavad philosophy. Actually, the impersonalists do not merge into the existence of the Supreme Person, but into His personal bodily luster, which is called Brahmajyoti. Although that Brahmajyoti is not different from His personal body, that sort of oneness, merging into the bodily luster of the personality of Godhead, is not accepted by a pure devotee, because the devotees engage in greater pleasure than merging into His existence. The greatest pleasure is to serve the Lord. Devotees are always thinking about how to serve Him. They are always designing ways and means to serve the Supreme Lord, even in the midst of the greatest material obstacles. Mayavadis accept the description of the pastimes of the Lord as myths, but actually they are not. They are historical facts. Pure devotees accept the narrations of the pastimes of the Lord as absolute truth. The words Mama Porushani, my glorious activities, are significant. Devotees are very much attached to glorifying the activities of the Lord. whereas Mayavadis cannot even think of these activities. According to them, the absolute truth is impersonal. But without personal existence, how can there be activity? Because impersonalists take the activities mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other Vedic literatures as fictitious stories, they interpret them most mischievously. They have no idea of the personality of Godhead. They unnecessarily poke their noses into the scripture and interpret it in a deceptive way in order to mislead the innocent public. The activities of Mayavad philosophy are very dangerous to the public, and therefore Lord Chaitanya warned his disciples never to hear from any Mayavadi about any scripture. Mayavadis will spoil the entire process, and the person hearing them will never be able to come to the path of devotional service to attain the highest perfection. He only may be able to do so after a very long time. It is clearly stated by Kapila Muni that bhakti activities are transcendental to mukti. This is called Panchama Purushartha. Generally, people engage in the activities of religion, economic development, and sense gratification, and ultimately they work with an idea that they are going to become one with the Supreme Lord or attain mukti. But bhakti is transcendental to all these activities. The Srimad Bhagavatam therefore begins by stating that all kinds of pretentious religiosity is completely eradicated from the Bhagavatam. Ritualistic activities for economic development and sense gratification, and, after frustration in sense gratification, the desire to become one with the Supreme Lord, are all completely rejected in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is especially meant for the pure devotees who always engage in Krishna consciousness, in the activities of the Lord, and always glorify these transcendental activities. Pure devotees worship the transcendental activities of the Lord in Vrindavan, Dwarka, and Mathura, as they are narrated in the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas. The Mayavadi philosophers completely reject them as myths, but actually they are great and worshipable subjects, and thus are relishable only for devotees. That is the difference between a Mayavadi and a pure devotee as they view Scripture. Actually, Vedic scripture is Krishna Katha, topics about Krishna, and Krishna Katha is not a subject matter for a debate club. It is meant for the devotees. Non-devotees simply waste their time reading Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and we have often mentioned that so-called scholars, politicians, and philosophers simply give misleading commentaries when they try to interpret Bhagavad Gita. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that they are like people trying to lick at a bottle of honey that is sealed closed. If one does not know how to taste honey, one begins licking at the bottle. But for one to actually taste the honey, the bottle must be opened, and the key to its opening is the devotee. Therefore it is said, Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti ritkarna rasayana katha tajjoshanad ashva pavarga vartmani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramishati, which means, quote, in the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed, and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. Unquote. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, Verse 25. God is eternal, and His instructions and followers are also eternal. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 1, Krishna tells Arjuna that millions of years ago he spoke Bhagavad Gita to the sun god. Bhagavad Gita was spoken to Arjuna 5,000 years ago, and if we read it today, we will still find that it is fresh. Bhagavad Gita and Krishna are never old. Although Krishna is the most ancient one, the oldest of all, he always remains like a young boy in his teens. He never appears older than 20. Krishna's words are absolute, as well as his form, qualities, and activities. They are always fresh and new. If they were not, how could the devotees glorify them day after day with greater enthusiasm? The more one glorifies Krishna, the more enthusiastic one becomes in glorifying, glorifying, glorifying. This is the meaning of spiritual. In the material world, if we repeat something once, twice, thrice, or 4 times, it finally becomes hackneyed and disgusting. However, this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra can be chanted 24 hours daily, and one will still feel fresh and enthusiastic. It is not a material sound like the sounds we hear on the radio. It is a spiritual sound that comes from the spiritual world. Even in the material world, we can release a sound from one place, and it can be heard thousands of miles away. A spiritual sound can be released from many trillions of miles away, and it can be heard provided that one has the machine to capture it. That machine is Bhagavat Prema. Those who have developed love of Godhead can hear it. Arjuna was neither a Vedantist nor a sannyasi, nor was he particularly advanced in spiritual understanding. However, he heard Bhagavad Gita because he was a bhakta. Atheistic scholars and politicians cannot understand the transcendental vibration. They can only lick at the honey bottle. Fools and rascals eat and drink everything without restriction, thinking that they are doing so in the name of religion. There are many so-called swamis and yogis who tell their disciples that they can do anything and still advance spiritually. But this is not possible. One has to become a pure Brahman, control the mind and senses, and discuss the Supreme Personality of Godhead among sadhus. This may sound very difficult, but one can become a sat, a saintly person, within a second. If one is eager, one can immediately surrender to Krishna. When one approaches Krishna, one should say, "My dear Krishna, I have forgotten you. Now I am fully surrendered unto you. You may kill me as you like, or if you like, you can give me protection." When Prahlad was asked by the Supreme Lord what benediction he desired, Prahlad Maharaj replied, "My dear Lord, why should I ask for some benediction simply because I have suffered for you? You are supremely powerful, and whatever I get from you. I was born into a family of demons and was inclined toward material enjoyment. I have seen my powerful father, who was feared even by the demigods, annihilated within a second. Why should I ask for anything? Please, engage me in the service of your servant. This is all I want. I do not want anything else." In this way, a devotee never asks for anything material from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The devotees are simply satisfied in glorifying the Lord. This is the way of Bhakti Yoga. Krishna descends to please his devotees and destroy the demons. From the very beginning of Krishna's birth, demons were present. Kamsa advised his constables, "As soon as Krishna is born, tell me, I shall immediately kill him." He was always thinking of Krishna in this way, negatively. Similarly, we will find so many so-called religionists whose only purpose is to kill Krishna. Somehow or other, they try to take Krishna out of Bhagavad Gita. They will comment on Bhagavad Gita, but in their commentaries, there will never be mention of Krishna. They will never say that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that he should be worshipped. This means that they are asuras, demons, although they may present themselves as big scholars. Somehow or other, they try to evade Krishna Bhakti, and their entire propaganda is aimed toward this. Text 35. Pashyanti te me ruchiranyamba santa rasana vaktraruna lochanani rupani divyani varapradani sakam vacham sprahaniyam vadanti. Translation. O my mother, my devotees always see the smiling face of my form, with eyes like the rising morning sun. They like to see my various transcendental forms, which are all benevolent, and they also talk favorably with me. Purport. Mayavadis and atheists accept the forms of the deities in the temple of the Lord as idols, but devotees do not worship idols. They directly worship the personality of Godhead in his Archa incarnation. Archa refers to the form we can worship in our present condition. Actually, in our present state, it is not possible to see God in his spiritual form because our material eyes and senses cannot conceive of a spiritual form. We cannot even see the spiritual form of the individual soul. When a man dies, we cannot see how the spiritual form leaves the body. That is the defect of our material senses. In order to be seen by our material senses, the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts a favorable form which is called Archa Vigraha. This Archa Vigraha, sometimes called the Archa Incarnation, is not different from him. Just as the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts various incarnations, he takes on forms made out of matter, clay, wood, metal, jewels, etc. There are many Shastric injunctions which give instructions for carving forms of the Lord. These forms are not material. If God is all-pervading, he is also in the material elements. There is no doubt about it. But the atheists think otherwise. Although they preach that everything is God, when they go to the temple and see the form of the Lord, they deny that he is God. According to their own theory, everything is God. Then why is the deity not God? Actually, they have no conception of God. The devotee's vision, however, is different. Their vision is smeared with love of God. As soon as they see the Lord in his different forms, the devotees become saturated with love, for they do not find any difference between the Lord and his form in the temple, as do the atheists. The smiling face of the deity in the temple is beheld by the devotees as transcendental and spiritual, and the decorations on the body of the Lord are very much appreciated by the devotees. It is the duty of the spiritual master to teach his devotees how to decorate the deity in the temple, how to cleanse the temple, and how to worship the deity. There are different procedures, rules, and regulations followed in temples of Vishnu, and devotees go there and see the deity, the Vigraha, and spiritually enjoy the form, because all of the deities are benevolent. The devotees express their minds before the deity, and in many instances the deity also gives answers. But one must be a very elevated devotee in order to be able to speak with the Supreme Lord. Sometimes the Lord informs the devotee through dreams. These exchanges between the deity and the devotee are not understandable by atheists, but actually the devotee enjoys them. Clearly, those who have the eyes to see Krishna will see him. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the temple of Jagannath, he immediately fainted upon seeing the deity. He said, "Oh, here is my Lord! Here is my Lord!" In order to see, one has to become Santa, and one becomes Santa by culture. When we develop love of Krishna, we will immediately see Krishna and faint, saying, "Oh, here is my Lord." However, those with no faith, those who are always trying to deny Krishna, will simply say, "Oh, this is an idol. This is simply a piece of stone." We must be eager to see Krishna and talk with him. He is actually waiting to see whether we are interested in talking with him. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 10, Sri Krishna says, "Tesham satata yuktanam, bhajatam priti purvakam, dadami buddhi yogam tam, yena mam upayanti te," which means, quote, "To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me," unquote. If we want to talk to some important man, we must have some qualification. It is not that we can immediately talk to presidents or even to senators just because we want to talk to them. Somehow or other, we must comply with certain rules and regulations. Krishna is ready to talk to us, and for this purpose he has descended in the Archa Murti, the deity, in order to be seen. We simply have to qualify ourselves to talk with him. The non-devotees, Mayavadis, who are interested in denying Krishna, say that God has no eyes, no legs, no hands, no ears, and so on. This is indirectly saying that God is blind and deaf and that he cannot do this or that. In this way, they are indirectly insulting God. This is blasphemy. God does not want to hear such nonsense. Therefore, it is said in this verse, Sakam Bacham Sprahaniyam Vedanti. By saying that Krishna is blind, that he has no eyes, no hands, no nothing, we are indirectly saying that Krishna does not exist. This is certainly not a favorable way to talk about Krishna. If we want to talk about Krishna, we must consult the Vedic literatures. Then we can understand how Krishna should be worshipped. In Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, verse 29, it is stated, quote, Sri Krishna is playing on his flute, and his eyes are as beautiful as the petals of a lotus flower. He wears a peacock feather in his hair, and his form is very beautiful, unquote. The Mayavadis say, just imagine some form of God. But God's form cannot be imagined. God's form is not imaginary but factual. This factual information we receive from the Vedas. When Krishna was present on this earth, he exhibited his form and activities. All of these are divine, not material. Krishna's body is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. It has nothing to do with anything material. He descends as a favor to his devotees, who are always anxious to see him. His first business is to give pleasure to his devotees, and his second business is to kill the demons, who are always giving the devotees trouble. It is the nature of demons to give as he was preaching God consciousness. Similarly, Hiranyakashipu tried to kill his 5-year-old boy Prahlad Maharaj because his son was talking about Krishna. There were many demons who tried to kill Krishna himself, great demons like Putana, Agasura, Bakasura, and Kamsa. Actually, everyone in the material world is more or less an asura, an atheist. If one preaches, one has to learn to tolerate the asuras and speak in such a way that they can also become devotees. We should always speak of Krishna in a pleasing way. Then we will be benefited. Another name for Krishna is Uttama Shloka, which indicates that he is worshipped by the best selected words. It is not that we should use any words we choose. There are many prayers in the Vedic scriptures and also in the Bible and Quran. Although the Christians and Mohammedans do not worship the deity, they offer prayers to the Lord, and that is also bhakti, archanam vandanam. There are 9 different processes for worshipping the Lord, and one may accept one or all of them. We should use very selected words and surrender unto Krishna. But we should not say things which do not please him. We should not claim that God is formless and that he has no eyes, no head, or whatever. Actually, it is stated in the Vedas that Krishna has no hand, but that he can accept our offering. This means that he has no material hand. If he actually has no hand, how can he extend his hand millions of miles to accept an offering? Goloka Vrindavan is many trillions and trillions of miles away, but Krishna can accept whatever we offer. When the Vedas say that God has no hands, it is meant that he has no material hands. His hands are Satchit Ananda Vigraha. If we can understand Krishna's activities, form, qualities, and pastimes in this way, we become fit to return home back to Godhead. Text 36. Ter darshaniya vaya verudara vilasaha sek shita vama suktai iratmano rita pranamscha bhaktir anichito mekatim anvim prayunkte. Translation. Upon seeing the charming forms of the Lord, smiling and attractive, and hearing his very pleasing words, the pure devotee almost loses all other consciousness. His senses are freed from all other engagements, and he becomes absorbed in devotional service. Thus, in spite of his unwillingness, he attains liberation without separate endeavor. Purport. There are 3 divisions of devotees: first class, second class, and third class. Even the third-class devotees are liberated souls. It is explained in this verse that although they do not have knowledge, simply by seeing the beautiful decoration of the deity in the temple, they are absorbed in thought of him and lose all other consciousness. By fixing oneself in Krishna consciousness, engaging the senses in the service of the Lord, one is imperceptibly liberated. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Simply by discharging uncontaminated devotional service as prescribed in the scriptures, one becomes equal to Brahman. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. This means that the living entity in his original state is Brahman, because he is part and parcel of the Supreme Brahman. Because of his forgetfulness of his real nature as an eternal servitor of the Lord, he is overwhelmed and captured by Maya. His forgetfulness of his real constitutional position is Maya. Otherwise, he is eternally Brahman. When one is trained to become conscious of his position, he understands that he is the servitor of the Lord. Brahman refers to a state of self-realization. Even the third-class devotee, who is not advanced in knowledge of the absolute truth, but who offers obeisances with great devotion, thinks of the Lord, sees the Lord in the temple, and brings forth flowers and fruits to offer to the deity, becomes imperceptibly liberated. Shraddhayan Vita. With great devotion, the devotees offer worshipful respects and paraphernalia to the deity. The deities of Radha and Krishna, Lakshmi and Narayan, and Ram and Sita are very attractive to devotees, so much so that when they see the deity decorated in the temple, they become fully absorbed in thinking of the Lord. That is liberation. In other words, it is confirmed herein that even a third-class devotee is in the transcendental position, above those who are striving for liberation by speculation or other methods. Even great impersonalists like Shukdeva Goswami and the four Kumaras were attracted by the beauty of the deities in the temple, by the decorations, and by the aroma of tulsi offered to the Lord, and they became devotees. Even though they were in the liberated state, instead of remaining impersonalists, they were attracted by the beauty of the Lord and became devotees. Here the word vilas is very important. Vilas refers to the activities or pastimes of the Lord. It is a prescribed duty in temple worship that not only should one visit the temple to see the deity nicely decorated, but at the same time he should hear the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, or some similar literature which is regularly recited in the temple. In Vrindavan, in every temple, there is recitation of the Shastras. Even third-class devotees who have no literary knowledge or no time to read Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita have the opportunity to hear about the pastimes of the Lord. In this way, their minds may remain always absorbed in the thought of the Lord, His form, His activities, and His transcendental nature. This state of Krishna consciousness is a liberated stage. Lord Chaitanya therefore recommended 5 important processes in the discharge of devotional service. 1. To chant the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. 2. To associate with devotees and serve them as far as possible. 3. To hear Srimad Bhagavatam. 4. To see the decorated temple and the deity, and, if possible, 5. To live in a place like Vrindavan or Mathura. These 5 items alone can help a devotee achieve the highest perfectional stage. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita and in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. That third-class devotees can also imperceptibly achieve liberation is accepted in all Vedic literatures. As far as meditation on the Archa Vigraha form of the Lord is concerned, we have to look at the deity beginning with his lotus feet. It is not that we immediately look at his smiling face. we should first try to see the lotus feet of Krishna. And when we are practiced in this way, we can look at his thighs, his waist, and his chest. Then we can reach his smiling face. In this manner we should meditate on Krishna's form, and thus we can associate with Krishna by meditating on his smiling face, his flute, his hands, his dress, his consort Srimati Radharani, and the other gopis surrounding him. Thus we should practice observing the Supreme Lord, and to this end he has appeared before us as the Archa Vigraha. There are three kinds of devotee: Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The Uttama Adhikari is the most advanced. The Madhyama Adhikari is in the middle stage, and the Kanishta Adhikari is the neophyte. It is recommended that the neophyte meditate on the deity daily. He should begin by meditating on the lotus feet, and then when he is practiced, he should turn his gaze toward Krishna's smiling face. The neophyte should also read and hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. If we simply try to see and don't listen, the results will not be permanent. In some temples there are deities but no discussion about Krishna. People attend for some time, but after a while they lose interest. Thus there must be two activities. The deities must be worshipped, and this is called Pancharatriki Vidhi. There must also be Bhagavat Vidhi, reading Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Pancharatriki Vidhi and Bhagavat Vidhi go hand in hand. By participating in these two processes, the neophyte can gradually attain the intermediate stage. The spiritual master is supposed to be in the most advanced stage, but for preaching purposes, he descends to the intermediate stage. The Uttama Adhikari, the most advanced devotee, does not discriminate between devotees and non-devotees. He sees everyone but himself as a devotee. The truly advanced devotee sees that he is not a devotee, but that everyone else is a devotee. The Kanishta Adhikari, the neophyte, simply concentrates on the deity, and that is required in the beginning. Archayam eva hadaye, pujam ya shradaye hate, natad bhakteshu chanyeshu, sabhakta prakrita smrta, which means, quote, a person who is very faithfully engaged in the worship of the deity in the temple, but who does not know how to behave toward devotees or people in general, is called a Prakrita Bhakta or Kanishta Adhikari, unquote. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, Verse 47. According to the prescribed duties mentioned in the scriptures, one must care for the deity, but when one is a little further advanced, he considers his functions with others. When one attains the Madhyama Adhikari stage, his vision is described thus: Ishvare tad adhineshu, balisheshu vishatsu cha, prema maitri kripopeksha, yakaroti sa madhyamaha, which means, quote, the Madhyama Adhikari is a devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest object of love, makes friends with the Lord's devotees, is merciful to the ignorant, and avoids those who are envious by nature, unquote. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, Verse 46. The Madhyama Adhikari is not only interested in the deity, but he can also discern between devotees and non-devotees. He can also understand that this man is innocent and that this man is not. The innocent do not know what is to be done, and they do not know anything about God. They are not actually offenders, but there are others who are offenders. The offenders become immediately envious as soon as they hear about God or His devotees. The Madhyam Adhikari knows that Krishna is God. Krishnastu Bhagavan Svayam. He wants to develop his love for Krishna. He also wants to see that not a moment is wasted without engagement in Krishna consciousness. He is always careful not to spoil life's valuable time. That is the first qualification of a Madhyam Adhikari. We have a very short period to live, and we never know when we are going to die. There is no certainty. Foolish people think that they will go on living forever, but that is simply foolishness. Life is transient. Therefore, the devotee wants to utilize every moment for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. The Madhyam Adhikari also has a special taste for chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. He is also very anxious to live in places like Vrindavan, Dwarka, and Mathura, places where Krishna lived. Of course, it is a fact that Krishna, being God, has his residence everywhere. He even resides within every atom. Andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam. Nonetheless, he has special places of residence like Vrindavan, Dwarka, and Mathura. Therefore, a devotee is anxious to live in those places. Increasing one's love for God is a gradual process, and the first ingredient is faith. Without faith, there is no question of progress in Krishna consciousness. That faith is created after reading Bhagavad Gita carefully and actually understanding it as it is. Unless one reads Bhagavad Gita, there is no question of faith in Krishna. One must have faith in the words of Krishna, particularly when Krishna says, quote, "Abandon all dharmas and surrender to me. I will give you all protection," unquote. If we study Bhagavad Gita as a literary treatise and then throw it away, that is not faith. Faith is explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami thus: Shraddha Shabde Vishvasa Kahe Sudrada Nishchaya Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krita Haya, which means, quote, by rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. This confident, firm faith, favorable to the discharge of devotional service, is called Shraddha, unquote. From the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse 62. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that he is not only a person, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead as well. He also says that there is no one superior to him. If one believes these words, then one will have faith. Impersonalists read Bhagavad Gita, but they do not accept Krishna as a person. In the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the impersonalist takes more trouble to come to him. He will come later, but it will take some time. This is because impersonal understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth is partial understanding. As Krishna states, Klesho dikataras tesham, avyakta sakta chetasam, avyakta hi gatir dukam, deha vadbir avapyate, which means, quote, for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Unquote. From the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, verse 5. We have often given the example of impersonal understanding being like the understanding of the sunshine. One may see the sunshine entering through a window into his room, but this does not mean that one knows everything about the sun. Impersonal understanding of the Absolute Truth is like that. The sunshine is impersonal, Brahman. The sun itself is localized, Paramatma. And the sun god residing within the sun is a person, Bhagavan. Just as one can understand the three aspects of the sun, the sunshine, the sun itself, and the sun god, one can also understand the three aspects of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Impersonalists maintain that the sun is simply a fiery globe and nothing else. But in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna specifically states that he spoke Bhagavad Gita to the sun god, Vivasvan. Of course, we can hardly imagine how the sun god can be a person. The sun is a great fiery globe, and we think that it is impossible for anyone to live there. But this thinking is simply short-sighted. It does not follow that no one can live in fire just because we cannot live there. We cannot live in water, yet there are aquatics living there. We live on this planet, which is basically composed of earth, and our bodies are basically composed of earth in order to live here. Bodies are made in such a way that they can live in their environment. Similarly, the sun god has a body capable of living in fire. Krishna is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, being, knowledge, and bliss, with form. Impersonal understanding is understanding of the Sat feature. Understanding Krishna in full is understanding all of his features. The Ananda feature is realized in Bhagavan. Krishna plays on his flute and is accompanied by his pleasure potency, Ladini Shakti, Srimati Radharani. Of Krishna's many potencies, the Hladini Shakti is his pleasure-giving potency. That is Ananda. Although Krishna is full in himself, he expands himself when he wants to enjoy. That expansion is his pleasure potency, Radharani. The gopis are the expansions of Radharani, and the various forms of Krishna are manifest just to taste the mellow of transcendental bliss. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. Thus Brahman realization is realization of the Sat portion. Paramatma realization is realization of the Chit portion. And Bhagavan realization is the realization of the Ananda portion. In the Vedanta Sutra, it is said that the Absolute Truth is Anandamayo Vyasat. Krishna's Leela is always full of transcendental bliss, especially in Vrindavan, his original residence. It is in Vrindavan that Krishna plays with his cowherd boyfriends and dances with the gopis. It is also in Vrindavan that Krishna steals Mother Yashoda's butter. All his activities there are filled with transcendental bliss. We can begin to experience this bliss by following the prescribed methods of devotional service. When we see the deity, we can gradually realize how Krishna is smiling, playing on his flute, and enjoying the company of Srimati Radharani. Then we also have to hear about Krishna. These two processes will increase in such a way that we will automatically become great devotees. Anachato me gatim anvim prayunkte. This is actually a scientific method. It is not imagination. People think that this is idol worship and imagination, but this method is prescribed in all the Shastras for developing God consciousness. It is an actual science. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Jnanam Parama Guhyam Me Yad Vijnana Samanvitam Sarahasyam Tad Angam Cha Grana Gaditam Maya, which means, quote, the personality of Godhead said, knowledge about me as described in the scriptures is very confidential, and it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it up carefully. Unquote. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Verse 31. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that he has revealed this most confidential knowledge to him because Arjuna is his very dear friend. That confidential knowledge is Sarvadharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, which means, quote, just surrender unto me, unquote. From the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 18, Verse 66. Brahman realization is certainly confidential, and Paramatma realization is still more confidential. But understanding Krishna as he is the most confidential knowledge of all. If one's mind and senses are completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness, one is experiencing bhakti. Bhakti is not a sentiment, but a practical science. One may engage in many activities, but in all cases, one's mind must be fully absorbed in Krishna. Although a housewife is always busy working around the house, she always takes care that her hair is nicely combed. Regardless of her engagements, she never forgets to arrange her hair in an attractive way. Similarly, a devotee engages in many activities, but he never forgets Krishna's transcendental form. This is the meaning of perfection.